Let's talk.
We want to ask some questions for you. Please tell us about your first impressions about Kazakhstan when you came to our country.
Kazakh people are very hospitable, and they welcomed me with open arms, and I just enjoy coming to Kazakhstan. Part of the reason I enjoy coming to Kazakhstan is because it reminded me so much of Australia. I lived and studied in Australia for about 8 years. And when I came to Kazakhstan, I looked at the open fields, the green, the people, even the buildings reminded me very much of Australia. So I enjoyed coming back to Kazakhstan. Actually, I worked in the bank in America as well. Okay, banking is banking. All right, so the basics of banking are always the same. Now, in terms of the difference, there's different evolution. And the evolution in banking in any country depends on the evolution in the population. So we need to look at the demographics of Kazakhstan versus, for example, the demographics of Hong Kong or the demographics of the US. In the US and in Hong Kong, we have a much larger middle class than here in Kazakhstan. And because of that, the products which are provided by banks to customers are somewhat different. Because when you have a very large middle class, you provide a lot of credit products. Here in Kazakhstan, for example, for the retail sector, a lot of the cards are what I call debit cards. So there's one difference. And that difference is driven mostly by the demographics of the country.
In Kazakhstani banks, there are a lot of expert specialists.
I don't think there are a lot of expats in Kazakhstan banking. Here in the bank, I'm an expat. I probably have 2 other expats. They are expats but they are from the CIS countries. So I don't consider them to be expats. Okay. Compared to Hong Kong, where we have 180 banks and 380 rep offices of banks, the number of expats in banking in Kazakhstan is actually very small.
Good. And heads, managers frequently have to leave people, have to leave their team with their work. And how do you pass through this experience, such experience?
Letting people go is one of the hardest things to do. Whether you're the head of a bank or whether you are a line manager, to let people go is very difficult because you've worked with your colleagues for a while, all right? And you built up a relationship with your colleagues. On top of that, if you were the one who was responsible for hiring this person, you have to admit to yourself that maybe you made a mistake. But the most important thing that you have to do is to discuss this very openly with the person involved and say, I think we have both made a mistake. Okay? And this is the hardest part of managing. It's easy to hire people, but it's very difficult to let people go. Every decision is difficult. Okay, really, every decision that you make is difficult because it's not the same. You never make the same decision. Now, every time we give a credit to a new client or we give a new credit to an existing client, the circumstances are different, right? So the most important thing when you make a decision is to know when you have sufficient information.
I have some question also. How you estimate generally banking sector in Kazakhstan?
In terms of the banking sector in Kazakhstan, I would say that we have maybe 10 okay, systemic banks and then a number of smaller banks. Do we need so many banks? That's a question that we need to address here, in Kazakhstan. Going back, you asked me what was the most difficult question in my life. Unfortunately, every question that comes across is difficult.